Hi everyone, thanks for coming back for part 2. I want to eventually get back to Mark 11 and try to explain why I believe this is all about DNA and try to explain the imagery that I believe is being presented here in this text. But I'll have to do that when I have a little bit more time, probably on the weekend. I just wanted to try to do these videos quickly because I think it's a lot easier to just go over some tables and to try to explain something that's in the scriptures. But as you can see, I've done quite a few tables here, and I did these tables over here on, well, the word CERN does not come up, but these come up on the word Hadron, on the Hadron Collider, because I believe this is ultimately about the splitting of the atom. I've mentioned before that I believe that the DNA is a representation of what will happen, but I don't know if it's going to happen literally, if the what's being represented here is going to literally take place. But that is the imagery that God uses to describe the restoration. The imagery is that of the DNA, and this is the same imagery that Satan uses as well. As you can tell from these images right here, the twin towers represent the two DNA strands, and then the one world freedom tower represents the two DNA strands joined together. As you can see right here, and right here you have the freedom tower, and it looks like the two DNA strands being twined together. You see one right here, an image of the freedom tower. So these are the two representing the 23 chromosomes and the other 23 chromosomes, and then this is the 46 with the two of them bound together. But Satan always imitates God, and this is another table over here. I have some other terms that I want to go over, and I want to go over this table when I go over Mark 11, but I just want to show you the number that comes up here. This is the cells, the reproductive cells, actually only have 23 chromosomes. And I'll just show you that right here. It says there will be half the number of chromosomes an organism has in its somatic cells, all other body cells except gametes. For example, in humans, the somatic cells contain 46 chromosomes, which is the diploid number 2n. And each sperm and egg has 23 chromosomes, where one of them is the sex chromosome. And over here it says a gamete, from ancient Greek, is a haploid cell that fuses with another haploid cell during fertilization in organisms that sexually reproduce. And so when you put in the word gamete, it comes up with the number 23, and that's how many chromosomes are in a gamete cell, which is a reproductive cell. And as you can see here, I've done a really amazing table on this that I want to go over, but I want to wait until I go over Mark 11 to explain this table, because I want to get back to this one on the Hadron Collider first. And I just want to explain that even though I do believe God uses the imagery of the DNA to describe the restoration of the temple, I'm not sure exactly how the DNA is going to be restored, but ultimately it's going to all go down to the atom. And just to give you an idea of what an atom is in relation to the DNA, as you can see over here, it says there's 100 trillion cells in the human body, but there's 100 trillion cells in a human cell. So that just shows you how small an atom is. There's 100 trillion atoms in a human cell, and there's 100 trillion cells in a human body. Okay, so this is eventually going to go down to the atom. Over here in 1 Corinthians 15:52, it says, in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trump, for the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed. And this word over here, moment, it's actually the word atom. And the implication of an atom is that it's the smallest particle that cannot be divided, cannot be cut in two because it's so small. And you see it has the word alpha is the first part of this word, and the second part of this word means sharper. So this is about cutting or splitting the atom. And that's what it's going to go down to at the restoration, in the twinkling of an eye. And what else is interesting is this word twinkling here. It's actually this word right here in the Greek comes from the word ripto. You see over here it says a throw, a stroke, a beat. And then when you look at this form of the word, which is basically the same word, it says to cast or throw, to throw down. Okay, so obviously the interpreters or the translators of the scripture in the King James, as well as the other translations, they took a little bit of poetic license in translating some of these words. Instead of atom, they put in the word moment. Instead of casting, in the casting down of an eye, they put twinkling. But I think this makes a lot more sense if you watched my last video where I talked about this verse right here in Matthew 7:5, where Jesus said, "Thou hypocrite, first cast out the beam out of thine own eye, and then shalt thou see clearly to cast out the mote out of thy brother's eye." So Jesus is saying to cast out the beam, okay, the beam out of your eye so that you can see clearly in order to cast the mote out of your brother's eye, if that's what you're trying to do. But what needs to be cast out is the beam. So this eye, the one with the beam, this eye needs to be cast down. And as you can see, the dragon is trying to do the opposite. He's trying to wreck this beam and cast down the cross, which is the mote. But it's actually, Jesus is saying to cast out the beam so that you can see clearly. Okay, so when you go back to 1 Corinthians 15:52, it says, in a moment, in an atom, in the casting or at the casting down of an eye, at the last trump, for the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed. We'll be changed when the casting down of this eye takes place. And this is why Jesus said, the light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, because the other one has been cast down, thy whole body shall be full of light. But if thine eye be evil, thy whole body shall be full of darkness. If therefore the light that is in thee be darkness, how great is that darkness? No man can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and mammon. Okay, so the restoration is actually going to go down to the splitting of the atom. And of course, everything that God does, Satan tries to imitate. And so that's why you see these terms coming up with the words hadron, collides, atom, rend, rent, tear, part. And there's all these other words that come up as well. Clash, smash, fragment comes up in two parts, beat. So these other words come up with the word hadron. I couldn't get collider to come up or collides to come up in one word, but all these other words that mean the same thing come up. And there's a few tables that come up on the word hadron. And this one is really interesting because this one comes up in Joshua 11. And I believe this is referring to the restoration of the DNA. But I'll go ahead and go over these terms first, and then I'll read the matrix. And as you can see over here in the yellow, you have the word tear. I'm not going to spell it out, I'll just point it out. And over here in the lavender, you have the word atom, the letters A, T, O, M. In the pink, you have the first part of the word collides, and then you have the second part over here in the purple. In the blue, you have the word rend. In the green, you have the word part. And in the light green, you have the word rent. And all these words mean to tear. And then you have the word hadron coming up in the light red with the letters H, A, D, R, O, N. And so I'm going to go ahead and read the text. This is coming up in Joshua 11. And Joshua is the name Jesus. In the Old Testament, it's Yeshua or Yehoshua. It's how you say Jesus in Hebrew. And this is coming up in chapter 11. And so I'm going to start reading with verse 16. It says, "So Joshua took all that land, the hill country, and all the south, and all the land of Goshen, and the lowland, and the Arabah, and the hill country of Israel, and the lowland of the same, from Mount Halak, that goeth up to Seir, even unto Baal Gad, in the valley of Lebanon, under Mount Hermon." And Mount Hermon is where all the fallen angels landed. "And all their kings he took and smote them, and put them to death. Joshua made war a long time with all those kings. There was not a city that made peace with the children of Israel, save the Hivites, the inhabitants of Gibeon. They took all in battle. For it was of Jehovah to harden their hearts to come against Israel in battle, that he might utterly destroy them, that they might have no favor, but that he might destroy them, as Jehovah commanded Moses. And Joshua came at that time and cut off the Anakim." And I'll go ahead and show you what Anakim means. Okay, you see that over here, Strong 6062, and it means long-necked, a tribe of giants, descendants of Anak, which dwelled in southern Canaan. So these are the Nephilim, the giants that Joshua is destroying. And so I'll read this again. It's saying, "And Joshua came at that time and cut off the Anakim from the hill country, from Hebron and Debir, from Anab, from all the hill country of Judah, and from all the hill country of Israel. Joshua utterly destroyed them with their cities. There was none of the Anakim left in the land of the children of Israel, only in Gaza, in Gath, and in Ashdod did some remain. So Joshua took the whole land, according to all that Jehovah spake unto Moses, and Joshua gave it for an inheritance unto Israel, according to their divisions by their tribes, and the land had rest from war." Okay, so this is prophetic of the end times, of the inheritance going to Israel, but of course this is talking about spiritual Israel. As you can see here, it talks about the inheritance. In Hebrews 9, it says, "And for this cause he is the mediator of a new testament, that by means of death, for the redemption of transgressions that were under the first testament, that they which are called might receive the promise of eternal inheritance." And then in Hebrews 11, it says, "By faith Abraham, when he was called to go out into a place which he should after receive for an inheritance, obeyed, and he went out, not knowing whither he went." And in 1 Peter 1:4 it says, "To an inheritance incorruptible and undefiled, that fadeth not away, reserved in heaven for you." And so this is all I have time for, and I just want to thank you for watching this video, and God bless you.